Alright, hello again. This is going to be another video of me casting some higher level players playing against one another. This game is going to be on Tal'Darim altars. The players are, as you see here, White and BratOK. Now, these players are actually quite famous. BratOK is the red Terran in the upper left-hand corner. He is a player who, although he was much more famous earlier in the game's life cycle, especially during the beta, he is still known as a very solid Terran, and commands some respect in the European parts of the game. Meanwhile, White down here in the bottom left-hand corner, the blue Protoss, is a legend. He used to be a StarCraft Brood War professional many years ago, and nowadays is still kicking with StarCraft 2. He places pretty highly in most of the tournaments he enters and is known for being extremely well-mannered and deliberate about what he does. He is famous for such things as his special tactics, which are various unorthodox builds that turn out to be rather good, and also for his just immense charm in every aspect. He is the source of the phrase "no GG, no skill," and "no manner, no skill." So, that aside, let's start to take a look at the game. Oh, I should probably mention that White is 30 years old, so for StarCraft professionals, he is only really matched by players like Boxer, who also command incredible respect. So BratOK right now has got no gas going down and one barracks, so it is pretty clear that he is going for a gasless fast expand. White very intelligently has thrown down a pylon to block the expansion. Even though this will just end up getting cancelled, it does force BratOK to build the command center off-center, meaning that he will lose a little bit of time and a little bit of focus by having to lift it off and then land it in the correct location. Meanwhile, White gets his Nexus very shortly after, and so he'll be on a pretty even economic footing. Uh, he actually cut cut mining gas in order to start his Nexus earlier. This is the general way that Protoss players will respond to this kind of gasless fast expand play by the Terran. Meanwhile, BratOK is getting the standard bunker at his natural, and then 2 more barracks to follow up. We should be seeing a single or a double refinery go down pretty soon as well, and both players will be playing a very economic and safe game. There's no real way for White to beat that bunker at this point in the game, and there's no real way that BratOK can get his Marines in to deal a significant amount of damage. Except he will actually be trying to move them out. It's unclear whether he's just taking the watchtower. It looks like he will be. Just taking the watchtower, establishing a little bit of map control, and maybe picking off a zealot. We shall see. White has to be careful. No, he's just going to go straight in there and try and do some damage. And he will get 1 kill on a Marine before his zealot went down. That is not necessarily a good trade, but he did do enough damage to those Marines. They will have to be falling back. This one Stalker would be able to take care of them with ease. Now we see 3 barracks of Marine production going down for BratOK, but he is floating a lot of money. We're going to have to see what he ends up doing with that. Will he increase his barracks count, or will he try to throw down another very fast expansion? We will see an engineering base, so it looks like he's going to be going for a more tech-oriented route. Meanwhile, White needs to be careful with that Stalker. That Stalker took unnecessary damage to its hull, and its hull does not regenerate. Now, we see that White as well is floating some money. Don't see... There we go. Twilight Council. It looks like he will be going for some Blink Stalker play. It's possible that he could be trying to get DTs out, but it seems more likely, given that the Terran player has the two command centers, two orbital commands for double the scans, that is not quite as reliable an option. It seems more likely that White Ra is going to try and hit a timing before the Terran player has any medevacs out to do some significant damage with Blink Stalkers. The reason that Blink Stalkers are so much better when medevacs aren't out is that whenever the Terran player engages, they will have to stim. And if you don't have any medevacs, then you can't heal off those stims. So Blink Stalkers can just run in, engage the Terran units without stim, and then just blink away. They can even escape Marauders with concussive shells with that kind of play. But it's a risky game, but it can be very, very rewarding if the Protoss player is good with his Stalkers. It could also be that of course he's determined to make me look like a fool by going directly for a Dark Shrine. We'll have to see how that will turn out. It's very possible that a bit of intelligent scanning by BratOK will just shut down that will just shut down the Dark Templar completely, but this Dark Shrine is actually getting very close to being completed. There are no missile turrets anywhere, and BratOK does not know anything about what is in White Ra's base. You would have thought that he would at least just scan once to see what was happening in White Ra's main, but that is not taking place, and meanwhile, that's what the robotics was for. This Warp Prism has now got 3 Dark Templar, which will go directly into BratOK's mineral line. He does have enough for a scan on his main Nexus, but he is meanwhile sending his Dark Templar in different directions. So this is going to be a very, very potent attack, because there's only enough scans to be in one place at a time. Missile turrets are going down, but it's not clear whether it will be too late, and concussive shells get saved, even though that's not a very critical upgrade. It takes so little time anyway that it's not a huge concern if it gets cut out. And now this third Dark Templar here has got 6 kills, 7 now, and it is not going to be stopped. The engineering bay was killed, although BratOK got his +1 upgrade, so it's all fine. Meanwhile, White Ra taking his third base, very good timing. There's nothing that BratOK can do to attack him right now, so White Ra is completely free to start up another base. And now we see that all of the Dark Templar have been killed for now. White Ra is dutifully warping in some more. He's increasing his gateway count at this time to a sizable, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 gateways. That is, 7 gateways in a robotics facility will allow him to match the production of BratOK very handily. In the meantime, we have BratOK. I really need to learn to set my status to busy for these. We do have BratOK starting up his medevac production, so he will be able to start healing up his troops from all of the stim damage he has done them. This does not look like a normal Terran army. This looks like a Terran army that has been stormed, but in fact, all that has happened to it is that White Ra has been harassing it again and again. Another scan goes down to take out that Dark Templar, and here White Ra goes, yet another Dark Templar entering the action, getting kills on Marines. There's nothing that can stop this play. Another scan has to go down. Does BratOK have any more scans? He's going to have one in a short period of time, but right now there's nothing. And another Dark Templar goes down as this scan wears off. It's going to be another few seconds before BratOK is able to field another scan, and this Dark Templar, White Ra is preventing BratOK from. I need to log out of Skype too. Apparently, is just preventing BratOK from ever throwing down any kind of. He's preventing BratOK from ever using mules. We see another scan going down, and now these zealots are just going into the main, and there's nothing that BratOK can do. These aren't some low-level Dark Templar you can just run your SCVs away from. These are charge zealots. These zealots will be able to just chase down everything that BratOK has. This +1 is going to be denied, and meanwhile, White Raw will very shortly be able to warp in more units in his main to defend against this. He's warping into Dark Templar. Of course, this is just how White Raw rolls. And now this orbital command is going to burn down. That has got to sting. Now he only has one orbital to get his scans from. It's not going to be up for a scan for quite some time. So many of these Marines and Marauders will go down in the meantime. Another Marauder dies, and another one. Oh, this is just brutal. And now 3 Dark Templar in the mix, and a round of Zealots. These units are just going to have to be picked up and moved out. But in the meantime, there are still Zealots in BratOK's main, and he is losing so many SCVs. How many? He's down to 9 SCVs, and all that he has left is a few Medivacs, a few Marauders, and White Raw is just floating money. He doesn't really need to be doing much at this point. Warping in more Zealots to start working on this little line of supply depots that has been constructed in the back of the minerals. And I can't see how BratOK can come back from this, and BratOK agrees. There's the GG, and White Raw will win this game. Now, this was a very interesting game in that it showed how White Raw was able to get an immense advantage, not only by capitalizing on his opponent's unpreparedness for any kind of Dark Templar strategy, but also on how just by the fact of having Dark Templar drops on this map, which is probably one of the best maps around for it. It has this third base very conveniently located so that a Warp Prism can just sit, load up units, and then move in and drop them. But it's also good in that even if BratOK had the appropriate counter units, it meant that he had to sit back on his base count and just wait for the Dark Templar to come in. Meanwhile, there was no threat on White Raw until that one desperate push with Marines, Marauders, and Medivacs. There was no threat to White Raw. He was just able to tech up, he was able to macro up without any concerns in the world. He ended up getting a... well, actually they were even on upgrades, so that's not worth commenting on. But he ended up doing a disproportionate amount of damage, not because the Dark Templar killed things, but just because it forced BratOK to be where he didn't want to be. It forced him to be in his own base, while he really wanted his units to be mostly in White Raw's base. So it's this kind of very heavily harass-based play that is a sign of an excellent player, and that's really what White Raw is. He may not be the fastest anymore, he's rather old as far as StarCraft players go, but he definitely understands the concepts of harassment and all kinds of timings. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I will probably be making more of these in the future as well. Thank you for watching.